Hi guys, and welcome back to another video Gaming with the Powers. I'm Jake, and today guys I'm going to be giving you my review of Skytear Horde, the brand new Kickstarter game coming from Skytear Games here. This is a cool little tower defense card battler type game. As always guys, before I give my review, we're going to jump down to the table. I'm going to show you how the game is played, give you a nice little tutorial, and then we'll be back up top here for the review. Alright guys, so here we are at the table where we have everything set up for a game of Skytear Horde. Before I jump in guys, just want to let you know that this is the deluxe version of the game that you were looking at. So that includes the playmat itself and all of the plastic components to the game. There is nothing deluxe about the cards themselves, and then I have chosen to sleeve them myself using Titan Shield card sleeves. The original base game, guys, is going to come with plastic cardboard punch-out tokens instead of the plastic pieces. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into the game of Skytear Horde, and I'll show you how it's played. Okay, guys, so let's go ahead and show you how to play. So Skytear Horde, guys, is a tower defense slash card battler type game where you're going to be fighting in lanes, and the objective of the game is ultimately to take out the outsider, which is right here. He has two versions of the outsider, and while making sure your castle does not get destroyed or take 20 damage. So what you'll do first, guys, is you go ahead and draw 5 cards from the top of your deck, and you will have the opportunity to mulligan any of these cards that you would like, and then you go ahead and draw up. There are 7 different phases to Skytear Horde, and I will walk you through each and every single one of the phases, guys. So the first phase, guys, is going to be the refresh phase, where you are going to gain mana. So you will gain mana equal to the number that is on the portal, so you'll gain 4 mana, and then any cards that you would have exhausted, you will go ahead and unexhaust those cards. Then you're going to go to the Horde phase. So what is the Horde phase, guys? You're going to draw cards from the top of the deck equal to the number on the top of the portal. So I would draw 1 Horde card and put it in the leftmost empty lane. So then once all cards have been summoned into the lanes, guys, you will then resolve these cards. So this card would get resolved, which is a spell card, and it says the Yetnar minions gain +2 health, and then the monsters in the portal would gain +1 armor, right? So what I would do is give them +2 health. All of the tokens here, guys, are double-sided. So this is considered a plus health. On the back is considered a minus health. This is a plus attack. The backside is considered a minus attack, and then +1 armor and -1 armor, okay? So then all monsters in the portal will gain +1 armor. So you would do that, and then any monsters that were in play would also gain an armor as well. And then that would be the activated of the cards, okay? The next thing you would do is compact all the Horde cards together, right? So let's say there was 2 cards here at the beginning of the Horde phase. When you would summon a card, you would put them in that lane, right? And then let's say, for example, this is a spell, right? So this spell would now get activated when I resolve all these cards, and there's an open lane here. What you would do then at the end is go ahead and compact all of those cards, okay? So that is the full Horde phase, guys. You're going to summon the Horde cards, activate them if they have any play effects, and then compact them all together. Okay, I'm just going to leave these guys out here for reference purposes. The next phase, guys, is going to be the Alliance phase. So this is going to be your turn. So what you guys can do is you can play cards from your hand as long as you have the required mana to pay them, and that is in the top left-hand corner of these cards, right? So I have 4 mana, so as long as I have, so I could play both these cards for 4, or I could just play 1 card for 3 if I wanted to, all right? So the next thing I can do, guys, is engage minions, okay? So these minions right now are considered in the back line and kind of out of play. And so while they don't really do any damage to my castle and affect my castle, what they do is they have their own separate phase where they take cards, they make you discard cards from the top of your deck. And one of the lose conditions of the game, guys, besides your castle getting destroyed, is you run out of cards in your deck. So every once in a while, you want to engage these minions to kind of destroy them. And also, the only way that you can draw cards, guys, in this game is by defeating monsters or minions, okay? In order to engage a minion, you must have a monster in a lane. So let's say I spend my 2 mana and I play this card from my hand into this lane. I can now engage a minion. So what you're just going to do is pull a minion from the back line into play, and I'm now engaged with that minion, okay? Okay guys, the next thing you can do is you can use exhaust abilities on a card. So for example, let's say I had this Ruin Catapult into play. So I could exhaust this Ruin Catapult to take a damage and deal 2 damage to a monster and its neighbors, okay? To simply denote that a card is exhausted, you will shift it down just like this, and everybody now knows that you know that this card is exhausted and you cannot use this ability anymore. But just because a card is exhausted still does not mean it will attack. So, let's say this ally had the effect. I could exhaust it still, and then during the fight phase, it would still attack the minions, okay? So that is the exhaust abilities. Okay guys, so the next thing you can do is move allies between lanes. So let's say I had these guys out here right now. I wanted to move these Wind Riders and Clan Oaks, so I could just freely move these guys and swap them kind of around in however the lanes and the positioning that I want to. So you can go ahead and do that. And then the last thing you can do is discard any allies in play. So you have certain cards that are like towers, right? And the tower's effect is when he comes into play, he gains 2 health, all right? And then you can exhaust him to take a damage, and then he does his effect, right? Well, when he has 2 damage, this card is essentially useless, right? I cannot shift tower cards around, so this would be stuck in this position, and I can't use his abilities anymore. And so then what you would basically do is I can just discard him from play to go ahead and create a free lane to where I can play more cards, all right? So those are the 5 actions that I can take on my turn. Again, they're play a card from my hand, I can exhaust the card, I can move cards around freely between the lanes, I can discard a card, or I can engage a minion as long as a ally is in lane. I also forgot to mention that if I ever move an ally out of the lane with a minion, the minion will return to the back line. All right. So then next, guys, the next phase is called the Treachery phase. What would happen is you will draw the top card from the deck and you will look on the left or right hand side of the card. There's going to be 2 types of symbols, guys. There's either going to be swords or there is going to be a lightning bolt like this, okay? Whatever position of the swords or lightning bolt on will determine the leftmost or rightmost monster on that is in the field. So this is denoting that 2 swords means attack. So the monster that is in the leftmost lane right here will gain +2 attack for the remainder of the turn, okay? So if you drew a lightning bolt, guys, that is a play effect. So you will look on the card and it will have a treachery effect. And this one says the outsider or the portal will gain +1 health, and you will prioritize the outsider. So you would go ahead and activate that as well, okay? So that is the treachery phase. And then this will now be a time for you to play any cards that you want with a lightning bolt on your hand. So for example, I have this card called the Stream of Life. It has a lightning bolt with a play effect. I would still have to spend the 2 mana in order to play this card, and it allows me to remove up to -3 health from an ally for the remainder of the turn and reduce all damage taken and dealt by that ally to 0, okay? So then we move into the fight phase, guys. So lanes will go ahead and fight. I'll leave these minions back out. Lanes will go ahead and fight from left to right. And basically what's going to happen is they're going to attack each other simultaneously, right? So for example, the Wind Raiders would deal 5 damage to him. He's dealing 2 damage back to me. So I would essentially destroy him. He would be destroyed and go back to the pile, right? I would take 2 damage because he did 2 damage to me. And then, So I would take 2 damage, and then I would be able to draw a card since I defeated a monster, okay? And then you would just resolve the rest of these lanes, or however many monsters were in the lanes. With the Onikai minions, they gain 1 health, or they gain 1 attack for every 1 health they have. So he is 1 and 1 right now, so then they would resolve. When an Onikai minion gets destroyed, guys, down to 0 health, he will just simply return back to the back line, and then play will resume. You'll be able to draw a card for defeating that minion, okay? Once all the lanes are resolved, that is the end of the phase. You'll just kind of leave everything where they're at. If any of your cards get destroyed, then they go back to the discard pile. All right. Then we get to the pillage phase. So this is where the minions come into play. Any minions that are in the back line that still have health, that is how many cards you will discard from the top of your deck. So right now, there's 5 total health amongst all the minions. I will discard 5 cards. from the top of my deck, and that is the pillage phase. Also, guys, if there are any minions into play, let's say I pull these Onikai minions into play the last turn. So they would resolve and fight, right? So they would only take 2 damage, and they would deal 3 damage to this guy, right? So they still have 1 health left over, right? They do not count towards the pillage phase. So instead of pillaging 5 cards, I would only have to pillage 2. And then once the pillage happens, they return back into the back line where they're going to stay, all right? The last phase, guys, is the end phase. So if the gate was destroyed this turn, which the gate would take 6 health, I'll go ahead and remove it from play, revealing the second level of the gate. However, if the gate was not destroyed, the gate will rotate 90 degrees, and then you'll just lay it on top there, and now it'll stay like that until it takes 6 damage. The portal, guys, will continue to rotate 90 degrees because it's going to mix up how many monsters come out. So, you know, the first turn is 1, the second turn is 1, the last turn is 0, or the next turn is 0, and the last one is 1, okay? So if the gate is, the gate is destroyed, we'll say the gate was destroyed, you'll bring the next level up, and you will put it down just like that. All right. Then you will also discard down to 7, guys. So I only got 3 cards, you'll discard down to 7. So that is all the phases of Skytear Horde, and that is essentially how you would play the game, guys. What would then happen is once you get to the second level of the portal, the outsider right here who you want to defeat will come into play. Once you destroy the level 1 version of the outsider, the level 2 will get put in the outsider pile. Then during the next horde phase, he would get summoned into play. And then once you finally defeat him, guys, you are victorious. Again, if your castle ever takes 20 damage or you run out of cards in your deck, you will lose the game. Alright guys, I'll see you back up top for my review. Alright guys, so I hope you got to enjoy that tutorial. I know it's kind of a lengthy one, but there's a lot of phases to this game and a lot of kind of moving parts. But let's go ahead and jump right into my review, guys. So starting with the theme. I'm going to go ahead and give the theme here a 7 out of 10, right? I think this is your generic fantasy theme, right? You got monsters, you got big baddies, you got, you know, heroes, you got allies, you got armies, and so it's just, to me, a generic run-of-the-mill themed game. It's a tower defense card battler, so it has a good thematic play to it, where you're trying to defend your castle and all these different types of things, and it's good. I mean, it's just a good overall production. It's a just good theme, right? So 7 out of 10 for me. Next, we're going to go ahead and jump into the components, guys. So I'm giving the components a 7 out of 10 here. Again, these are just pretty good components, right? I think, again, I got the deluxe version, so the playmat definitely helps and adds like a very cool ambiance to the game. Is it absolutely necessary? No, but I've just found out when you have like lanes or a lot of games where you're just primarily using cards, I find it easier for myself to have the playmat to where I kind of need to put everything and it's organized, okay? Again, guys, these plastic pieces are just standard generic plastic pieces. They're very lightweight. They're not hard at all. And then the base game, guys, like I said, will come with the generic the generic cardboard tokens, right? The cards themselves. The cards are your standard 52 playing deck card. In terms of weight, feel, thickness, all of things like that. The one thing I have noticed though, guys, about these cards is they do scratch very easily. So that's why I went ahead and sleeved all of these cards, because again, they do scratch very easily. So do be careful if you don't plan on sleeving these cards. But other than that, the artwork on here is phenomenal. Just, you know, every single card in the game, I think there's like close to there's like 350 cards in the game. Each one has their own individual artwork, and it's cool to kind of see all of that. Well, I say that, but then there's 2 copies of that. But for the clans, each one has a lot of their own artwork, and so overall, it's just a very visually pleasing game. So 7 out of 10 for me. Good components, good artwork, things like that. Good feel to the game. All right. Next up, guys, we got the setup here. So I'm giving the setup a 7 out of 10 here. Again, it's just, you know, kind of that in-between setup where what really takes so long for the setup is having to, you choose your portal cards. So what difficulty do you want to choose, right? It's not really setting the game up. It's choosing how you want to play the game. And so I'll kind of walk you through that setup, right? So you're going to choose your portal cards, okay? So you have 3 different difficulties to the game. So you're going to choose which difficulty. There's certain portal cards for each difficulty, okay? Then you're going to choose what horde monsters you want to go against, right? In the deluxe version, there's 4. In the regular version, there's 3 decks of horde monsters that you can go against. So choosing that one, right? Then you got to take the generic common cards and mix those together. You take your minions, you put them out, and then you pick what clan you want to play, right? So there's 4 clans in the deluxe version, 3 clans in the original box. And so then each clan has 2 different castles. So you'll choose the clan of your choice. You choose between one of 2 different castles, and then you choose between one of 2 heroic allies, like your main ally. You get all that stuff, guys. You shuffle all your cards together. You got your castles, and then you're kind of ready to play. So, like, the setup is, kind of just like this, right? So you got your minions in the back line, my cards, my castles. Oh, and then the outsider, you choose what outsider you want to play. I believe there's 4 different outsiders, and then 2 or 3 come with the deluxe version. But you'll go ahead and put them into play, and then you just kind of get everything set up. So, it does take a while. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes for setup, just depending on what you want to do. And so again, for me, it's that middle range right there. It's not super long to set up, but it is kind of annoying sometimes when I think about wanting to get this to the table, because when I finish my playthrough, I got to separate all the cards back out and then organize them back. Okay, moving on to the length, guys. So I'm going to give the length an 8 out of 10 here. I think this is a very good length to the game, right? Your card battler, it's going to be short. It's around 30 minutes per playthrough. When you're playing co-op, it maybe adds 5 more minutes, because essentially you're kind of playing simultaneously with your partner, because you're still just trying to defend that 1 castle in 6 lanes. So it moves fairly quickly. And then once you get a hang of the turns and the phases, how they work, you kind of fly by it. So really, this is a quick, 25-30 minute game. So I think that's very good for a solitaire card battler co-op game, right? So right in that range of what you would expect from a lot of these games. So 8 out of 10 for me. All right, guys. Moving on to difficulty. So remember here, the higher the difficulty, we feel the higher the game is. The lower the difficulty, the easier we feel the game is. I'm giving this a 6 out of 10 here. I give it a 6 out of 10. Now, I say that because really the game can go down to as low as like a 4 or a 5 out of 10, and then it can go up to as high as like a 7 or an 8 out of 10. Because of the fact, right, they have 3 different levels of difficulty. You have the normal mode, the hard mode, and then the nightmare mode, essentially, is what they call it. And so, depending on what mode you're picking, right, that determines like how much mana you're getting and how much health. And so, like, how many monsters are coming out. So it can be very easy, or it can also be very challenging. Now, the easy mode, or the standard mode of the game, is fairly easy. It's very it's a good entry point to the game where you feel comfortable. The hard mode is definitely a challenge, and the nightmare mode is very rough. The game itself, in terms of how difficult it is, it does have a lot of moving parts and a lot of phases, and it can be you can be very quick to skip a phase or miss some certain things. Again, guys, the big one for me here is the turn effects, right? So that, again, having to grab your dice, because there are a lot of cards and a lot of abilities that say they get +1 health or +1 attack for the remainder of the turn. And if you're using these tokens can also symbolize, because there are some cards that they gain +1 or +1 health or attack or armor permanently for the remainder of the game. So it can be very confusing when you're using these tokens right here, guys, to give him +1 attack, and then let's say I do another attack for the remainder of the turn, and I forget that token's on there because it's essentially the same token, and then it makes it a little more difficult. So using the dice for that will definitely make it help. But if you don't have any dice handy, guys, and you're just using the base components of the game, it can be a little challenging. Other than that, I think it's pretty simple and pretty easy to understand, right? The only way you can play cards from your hands is having the paying the cost of the mana, and then they're just fighting in every single lane. A couple other things real quick, though, about the difficulty of the game. Two other things that I wanted to point out. There is some confusion sometimes, guys, with play effects and monsters. So, for example, like this guy right here, he has a play effect of that when you play this guy, he deals 2 damage to a monster engaged with him, okay? So essentially, when you play him into a lane, if there is a monster here in the lane, he's already considered engaged. But what you can kind of do is you can play and engage a monster or a minion simultaneously. So let's say I wanted to play him, I can engage these minions, okay, and then at the same time, and then use his effect to deal 2 damage. So some of the wording here and how things are set up can be a little confusing. So that's why I'm giving that 6 out of 10 where it kind of averages everything out. Next up, we have replayability. So I'm giving the replayability an 8 out of 10 here, right? I think you have a lot of options to this game. Again, I said there's 3 different modes to play the game to challenge yourself. You have, a lot of different horde decks, right? 3 to 4 different horde decks depending on the version, 3 to 4 different clans depending on the version of the game that you have. You have a lot of outsiders that you can choose from. So there's a lot of replayability and variability to the game that you're going to have. And then there's the different modes. You can play it solo, you can play it cooperative, and then they also have another mode where one person takes over the horde and controls the horde army, and you or another person with you will be taking them on. So you can play up to 3 players on this game. So that is kind of cool how that works as well. So there's a ton of options, a ton of replayability to this game. So 8 out of 10, very good replayability here for me. All right, guys, last thing, we're going to look at price. So I went ahead and gave the price an 8 out of 10 here. I think this game is retailing right around 35 to 40 bucks. You can find it on different websites. Skytear on their website has it for 50. I would not pick this game up for 50, guys. I would go look somewhere else. I believe I saw Boardlandia has this for 35. Miniature Market has it for 40. Amazon actually has it right now for 40, 20% off. You can pick it up. But I think at that price point, $35 to $40, I think this is a very good pickup because of just the variability that you have of the game. Again, the 3 different modes. You can play it solo. Like, this is a game that I've been busting out a lot recently when I want to play it solo. So definitely recommend this game, 8 out of 10 for that price point. All right, so overall ratings, guys, I'm going to give it a 7.5. To me, it's right on that verge of being very good and that I'm always willing to recommend it and play it to others. But I just got a few little hesitations about it. But here's what I love about the game, right? I feel like this is mainly marketed as a solitaire solo game, right? Because I do feel that it does work cooperatively, but I think it's going to take a couple playthroughs of a cooperative scenario here in order to really utilize and get the enjoyment out of the game, I think, that you get from the solitaire version, right? The solitaire version of the game is just you and the AI battling, trying to defend the castle. With the co-op game, you guys are basically working together to defend one castle. And so if your partner doesn't quite understand the game, like pretty much like, so for example, what I realized is I'd played this cooperatively with, I taught it, or tried to teach it to a friend of mine over the weekend, and we played cooperatively. And I could tell that like he quite didn't know what was going on because of all the different phases and things like that. So he really didn't know what cards to play. And so he was constantly asking, maybe I just did a terrible job of teaching it to him, but he was kind of asking questions to try and figure out how the game moves and how it progresses. And so I felt like more times than not, I was playing the game for him in a manner because he was like, should I play this or this? Should I play this or this? And so it's going to take a couple playthroughs cooperatively to really get the enjoyment you get out of it solo, if that makes sense. But again, guys, look, you're getting a lot of value here out of just the base game, right? Because you got 3 different clans, 3 different horde monsters, 3 different sets of difficulties, so there's always going to be a challenge in everything that's going on. I love the artwork here. I just love how the length of the game, how everything kind of just flows together. And it's a card battler tower defense type game. So, I mean, it gives me that feel of like one-on-one, I can battle the AI, battle the components, or battle the AI, and kind of go from there. But again, 7.5 for me. That is what I'm giving this score of the game. I definitely would recommend checking this game out if you love solitaire or solo games. Alright guys, well look, that is my review of Skytear Horde. If you guys own this game, go ahead and let me know what you think of it. Do you like it? Are you happy with it? And as always guys, hit that notification bell so you can be notified when new content is dropping. And as always, if you are not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe. Alright guys, y'all have a great day.